the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. When Shakespeare wrote these words, he likely didn't think that we would still be saying them to this very day, nearly 400 years later. But they are just as important and impactful now as they were when he scrawled them onto paper with pen and ink centuries ago. Since then, however, theater has changed quite a bit. The very first iteration in ancient Greece, where tragedies and comedies were treated as a form of catharsis for audience members, to the Elizabethan times, where Shakespeare himself rose to fame, to the 20th century, where theater first began to take root in American culture, to modern day, where some of the boldest and most provocative performances are gracing the Broadway stage. But for me, it all started in the 5th grade. Yes, this is me, complete with oversized trench coat and penciled-in mustache. As a 10-year-old, there were very few things I was sure of in life, but wanting to perform on stage was one of them. Of course, this is not as easy as one might think. There was still one thing standing in my way: stage fright.
The trouble with theatre is that, I can only speak for myself, is that there's this huge fear factor that you have to deal with. At least on film, if you screw up, there's another take. And it doesn't go away, the fear. It's a useless thing. It's not really very positive, and it's just like a little gremlin that sits on your shoulder and tries to make you fail.
Once I got to high school, I quickly began chipping away at this fear. I got to perform in musicals, dramas, comedies, and everything in between. With each new show, the gremlin on my shoulder got smaller and smaller. It was time for the next phase of my life. Before I even set foot on campus here at Boston College, I knew what I wanted to do. I was going to major in secondary education and be the nerdiest high school math teacher the world had ever seen. This was my destiny, and nothing was going to stand in my way. I even had the clothing to prove it. I knew I also wanted to continue to pursue my theatrical endeavors. It was even my goal before graduating to have my picture showcased on the famed windows lining the Rob Sham Theater. While it did take some time to get my foot in the door, I soon found myself performing in multiple different shows throughout the school year. And before I knew it, the gremlin had disappeared. I even branched off into playwriting and got the chance to see my own work produced in Boston, New York, and the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. It was also around this time when I began student teaching. Then, the gremlin came back. Only this time, I was standing in front of a class of teenagers. What could I do? This was going to be my career. I couldn't let stage fright get the best of me again. All of a sudden, it clicked. I realized why I had kept doing theater after all these years. If you think about it, being a teacher isn't a whole lot different from being a performer. You still have to think about all the same things. You have to remember your lines. You have to stay in the scene. Make sure you're engaging the audience. And always be thinking on the spot. When I step into a classroom, I know exactly what to do. Shakespeare really was right when he said that all the world's a stage. Who would have thought that my entire future would be so heavily influenced by my role in the theater, and that it all began with 10-year-old me in an oversized trench coat, penciled-in mustache, and a little bit of courage.